welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about Shrinking. This is a new comedy drama that recently came out. I want to say there are 2 episodes that have been released. There might be 3. I've only watched 2 of them so far, so if there are any more, this is just going to be a review of the first 2 episodes. Now, I've read a lot more than I was expecting, articles about this show that imply or kind of say that Shrinking is meant to sort of take a stab at Ted Lasso. And I will have to say I did not put those 2 things together. I never, while I was watching Shrinking, I did not get Ted Lasso vibes. There is absolutely nothing about Shrinking that would lead me to compare those 2 to one another, but we'll just get into it. So Shrinking is a new comedy drama, as I mentioned. It stars Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, Christina Miller, as well as quite a few others. And the gist of this comedy is Jason, who plays the character Jimmy, has had his wife pass away, and he has gone through what I would consider hitting rock bottom. He is clearly struggling with substance abuse. He is inviting young women to his home, and he is, in my opinion, very neglectful of his teenage daughter, Alice, who he shared obviously with his wife. Now, I think that the whole point of this television series, at least what I've been able to grasp from the first 2 episodes, it is meant to be kind of like a feel-good, rise from the ashes type scenario about how Jimmy, who is a psychiatrist or therapist, kind of works through his own issues while also helping his personal clients. And one of those clients is a character named Sean, who is there to see him because whenever something, I don't want to make it sound terrible, but whenever something slightly inconveniences him, i.e. someone bumps into him or something of that nature, he just beats the ever-living crap out of them. So he is in therapy and trying to help his issues. From the first 2 episodes, the only thing that I really gathered from it is that Harrison Ford is the best character, and it is unfortunate to me that he is not the main character, and that I basically don't like anyone else. I really, really don't like the character of Jimmy, played by Jason Segel. I find him just gross. Everything about his character is gross. And to go through basically this entire time where he treats everyone around him like absolute garbage and does whatever he wants when he has a teenage daughter who has just lost her mother, and he's sitting out back by the pool with these 2 girls that couldn't be much older than her, drunk on pills, doing all of this stuff. And you're supposed to think that that's okay for him to behave that way because his wife died. And everyone around him is all but supportive of Alice, his daughter. One of his neighbors, who I feel like was kind of a family friend, has basically been taking care of his teenage daughter, feeding her, getting her to school, things of that nature. And that you're supposed to believe that these baby steps that he is taking towards trying to reconnect with her are enough. And there are a few moments in these episodes, particularly with Alice, where she's like, it's not enough. It's not enough that you just want to have dinner suddenly. It's not enough that this, that, and the other. And I am wholeheartedly on her side. Now, I would imagine that this series is going to continue with that sort of Phoenix Rising bit of watching this therapist kind of better himself and better his clients. But I have to say, the one reoccurring thought that I had throughout just the first 2 episodes of this is that I would feel really sorry for anyone who had any of these people, other than Harrison Ford, as their therapist, because it is kind kind of like a group of therapists. There are 3 of them, Harrison Ford being the main one. And then I believe the 2 others are kind of just working with him, like understudies of some kind. And the 2 that work with him are just, they're dislikable. Like, I really just don't like either of them at all. They seem just not to be the type of people that I would ever want to have as my therapist. It's one of those shows where you're like, gosh, if that was my therapist, I can wholeheartedly understand why so many people choose not to get therapy, because yikes. That being said, I don't think that this show is terrible. I think it's fine. If you are looking for, kind of a feel-good-ish type of story, and you like, Harrison Ford and some of the other characters in the show, I would say give it a try. For me, there is nothing particular that catches my attention about this one that makes me want to really continue watching it. And my deep dislike for the main character of Jimmy doesn't help that. Like, if you've created this character that is extremely unlikable, then it's going to be difficult for people to maybe it won't be difficult for people to relate to him, but it's very difficult for me to relate to him personally. I had some, not great moments in my life with people that struggled with substance abuse. I have a very different perspective of looking at that. And I kind of can understand the character of Alice a lot better. Especially when she is saying things like, whatever you're trying to do, it is not going to be enough. I get that. I feel that in my bones. So this one for me is just not particularly something that I want to continue watching. But that being said, it is not terrible by any means. But bringing it kind of full circle back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast episode, anyone that would ever compare this show to Ted Lasso, what? Like, no. Like, there is only one deeply unlikable, like, that you never kind of change your opinion of, and that is, I think his name is Nathan, I want to say, but like the coach assistant guy who's like kind of meek and super nice, and then for some reason becomes a jerk, and now I can't stand his whole face. but like everyone else kind of has something about them that you're like, oh, they're struggling with this thing, watch them over a couple of seasons get better. But none of them particularly give me the same ick vibe that like some of the characters in Shrinking do. And Ted Lasso is just, it's every episode is just feel good right out of the gate. And Shrinking doesn't have that. Like, there is not as much comedy, I would say, in Shrinking as there is in Ted Lasso. So Ted Lasso deals with kind of some deeper things, and that comedy is there to sort of bring some levity and break up sort of those more hard conversations. Whereas I think that Shrinking doesn't really have the same vibe. Like, they're definitely dealing with some deeper issues, but it's not as humorous to me. Like, there are some places where they do attempt to make jokes that I just don't particularly find that funny. In context, it's just not as humorous to me personally. So Shrinking is kind of a win and kind of not. I very much enjoy Harrison Ford's character, like as the shrink that he is, but he's really the only character in this show that I very much enjoy. So those are my thoughts on Shrinking. I would love to know yours if you've seen this television series. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.